Hi guys, and welcome to I'm reading 7 books in 7 days. This is one of my most anticipated vlogs ever because I have quite the TBR to get through. I just want to sit down and read books. There's no better chance than doing it in this way. So let's get into it because I have thoughts and it's going to be a while. So let's just start, alright? For those of you who have been keeping up with the channel as of late, in the past week I actually started a series over on YouTube Shorts and on my Insta Reels. I'll have my socials on screen so you can go check them out. It's called Reading 50 Books in 50 Days and yesterday was day 7. So I've officially finished 1 week of this and I really wanted to sit down and make like a whole length video on it because let's be real, every time I sit down and make a short, it does hurt me in the sense that it's got a limited timer. There's only so much I can say about a book before the time runs out, and so I really just want to sit down with my in-depth thoughts and opinions and summary of the book right now because there's no rushing it. I can take as long as I want in long form content. So we'll quickly go through the books I read, star ratings, all the fun nitty-gritty stuff for anyone who cares, and let's start. For day 1, exactly like a week ago at this point I think, I started this book called Nocticadia. It's 700 pages long. Already I was jumping off in the deep end because I wanted to feel very ambitious, very enthusiastic about the challenge. However, in doing so, I set quite the benchmark that it kind of hurts to think back on because I ended up spending my entire day burning my brain out trying to finish 700 pages in a day, which is not bad, but do not get me wrong, please don't try that, especially for someone who's like a slow reader like me. This took me quite a bit to get through, and maybe the reason I didn't rate the book higher is the fact that I was literally just stressing myself out trying to get through it. However, now for summary, it follows this girl called Lilia. Her mom goes down with this mysterious illness and there's no actual place or like no actual documentation of it throughout history, so Lilia doesn't actually know what took her mom away, and so she's left with questions behind. Now fast forward to present timeline, Lilia is still trying to figure out what happened to her mom, except right now she actually gets this scholarship offer from this university that's set on the prestigious island of Nocticadia, wherein they are inviting her to come study there on a scholarship or whatever, except the plot twist here is that they're the only people who study that specific disease, the thing that happened to her mom. So if Lilia wants answers, that's the only place on the planet that she can get it because it's like a privately funded place, and so it's in the hands of strictly controlled individuals who won't really give her information otherwise. So she's just gonna have to go there, except the problem with that is Nocticadia, the island specifically, has a very dark past. It used to house an asylum before it housed the university, and so there's shit that's gone down in the past. It goes very dark and deep. There's like torturing, there's sort of killings or whatever. There used to be a tribe there that isn't there anymore. Stuff went down. They even have this place, if I'm recalling correctly, called Bone Bay, which is essentially just the coastline of the island filled with like bones and skulls of humans. That gets very disgusting, and so basically there's a lot in the background going on, and if she really wants to go to Nocticadia, she needs to risk unearthing skulls of its past and kind of going through really dark gory shit. But she ends up deciding to do it because she is the main character and we did need that book to happen anyway. Now, in Nocticadia itself, in the school, there's actually her professor. He's called Professor Bramwell, Dr. Death they call him on campus, because there's like a, I guess, modern day killing that's happened as well that he's been rumored to be accused of. So he might have killed someone in the background, and she kind of needs to get close to him to find out more about the disease because he's the man, he's the pathologist in charge of figuring out more of the disease. So she's kind of risking her life to kind of figure out more stuff with him because, again, like I said, he could be a convicted murderer and there's stuff going on in the background too. So she kind of collaborates with him. There's stuff going on in the background. There's like romance happening between the two of them as well, and it was a good book, do not get me wrong, but maybe because I speed read it kind of throughout the day and forced myself to kind of finish it in one day, I don't think it hit me the way it had to. I will say the romance had definitely some good quotes here and there, but it wasn't my cup of tea because it was very physical. 1 minute we were going from I hate you to the next minute, oh my god, I need you in my life, which is crazy because I feel like I'm the kind of person who needs like emotional development, and this one didn't really have much. However, the whole plotline with her mother's disease, figuring out stuff, stuff from the past coming back to haunt them, because what I just told you, the summary of this book, is only the tip of the iceberg. Keep in mind this is 700 pages that I'm trying to summarize in 2 minutes only, and so that's wild. It goes crazy when you get answers with regards to what happened in the past and what happened to her mom. It's so crazy, I could have never guessed that, and I will say I had so much fun with that, but that's the only thing I really stayed for. The romance wasn't hitting for me, and so I'm gonna say this book was 4 stars because it really got me, do not get me wrong, and I really need to read more of this sort of genre now. So if you've got recommendations, leave some for me, because it was very dark, very out of my general comfort zone, but I had a good time reading anyway. Day 2, I ended up picking up First Time Caller. Now I've been seeing this going around since Valentine's Day because I think it came out around that point or whatever, and the cover is extremely cute. So as a hopeless romantic trying to give myself a break on day 2, because we read 700 pages on day 1, I figured, might as well audiobook my way through it. I ended up painting my nails white. They're chipping right now, but this is literally what I did that day, and so I had it on 3x speed. I was listening to it. It follows single mom Lucy, whose daughter actually calls into this radio station to kind of help with Lucy's love life, because Lucy, doesn't have much of one. So her teenage daughter, or almost teenage daughter, is trying to, interfere in it in a sense to kind of help her mom find love, except as she does so, she calls into that late night radio show, like I said, and so contact and interaction is initiated between Lucy and the host of the show, Aiden. So now that episode actually ends up going viral of them speaking to each other, Lucy kind of declaring her ideals on love and how it's really hard to find it in modern era, and because of that there's lots of demand for Lucy to come back in studio. Now that show in the background is actually failing, so they need to boost their ratings, and so the plan has come up that they're going to start a new radio show with Lucy as co-host, kind of coming in as a guest to kind of find her love life, and that's really what the people are interested in. So she comes on board, she's on the show with Aiden, they're kind of hosting together, he's trying to help her find her love in life, except as that's going on, they're both starting to fall for each other, but because they can't really do much, it's more of like a professional setting. He's trying to still help her find love in her life, he's jealous of it, but he's still trying to make his way through it, and there's a lot going on, but that's the gist of it. I will say this was a really good rom-com for someone, like I said in one of my short videos, I think, who is looking for a 2000s-esque rom-com, because this had the premise of it, it had the vibe of it. I will say though, at some point I definitely got the ick from Aiden, and maybe this book was longer than it had to be, because it could have been cut down 100 pages and I would have enjoyed it just fine. I feel like at some point it dragged out and it was just going around in circles. However, I had a good time with the side characters, and now I cannot wait for the next book in the series. I believe it follows Aiden's friend on the radio station called Jackson. So excited because I loved his character so much, and Lucy as well. I loved her character so much because her hopeless romantic ideals I could really connect with as a reader. There's so much she said that I genuinely related to, and there's actually a whole paragraph from the book that I stopped the audiobook to actually go write down in my journal, because that's how deeply I related to that sentiment. But I will say though, the connection between Aiden and Lucy, like I enjoyed every other aspect of this book. I enjoyed the whole stuff she's got going in the background, the stuff going in the background of the radio station, the show itself. Their romance, it did fall a little flat for me, because I feel like Aiden, he was always second guessing and doubting himself, and maybe Lucy, she needed a little better than that. But again, they got their happy ending. It was a good time anyway, and I had a fun time reading. I feel like this was perfect for me not to fall into a slump, because this was exactly what I needed. It was more of like a mindless sort of light-hearted book, but with a little bit of emotion, and that was perfect, because after having come off of writing 700 pages, I truly just needed something that would appeal to me in that sense, and it definitely did. This was 3.5 stars, and the audiobook was really fun because there were different animation effects coming in during the show time and when they were speaking on camera or whatever, so that was fun to listen to. Day 3, I ended up picking up this book called Run on Red. I also ended up reading the short story related to it because I figured it wouldn't take so long. It was short anyway, and for good reason, because I sped through both of these. I feel like at that point I was completely in a slump in this series, and there's again only so much you can explain in a 1-minute clip, so while I didn't get the chance to say that on camera, I was definitely in a slump at that point. And so picking this book up was a good decision because this went by really fast. I will say it definitely fell flat, but it went by fast. It follows these two best friends, Laura and Olivia. They're actually heading out to a party, except the problem with this book is they get lost on the way to the party, and it's like the early 2000s, so they don't really have communication and stuff that's really great, kind of finding their way around, and so they're really trying to figure out where they are. They end up on this isolated road, and as it turns out, there's this truck behind them full of these two masked men or whatever, and they're trying to kind of get these girls cornered for whatever reason. So it's like a cat and mouse game essentially, wherein they're being chased by this truck behind them with those two masked men in it who probably don't have great intentions, and if they don't stay one step ahead of those masked men's game, they could essentially end up the victims. Because again, why are they wearing masks? Why are they chasing them? There was this whole point where they were ramming the car off the road, and it goes very much in depth. There's different things going on, there's stuff from the past coming to light. But I will say, I didn't have much connect with the characters for me to actually care about what was going on. So when the final reveal came in, I genuinely didn't care. I just kept reading to figure out what really happened. And by the end of it, I was really done with this book because it was slow, it was descriptive, it was the sort of thriller movie, the kind of slasher stuff you watch when you're home alone because you have nothing else to watch, and so it's just playing in the background while you're mindlessly looking at it and looking at your phone screen at the same time. But if this was adapted to a movie, I feel like it would be a good one, because if you cut out certain bits that got really descriptive and slow, this definitely could hold your attention. It held mine for sure, and it was fast-paced in the sense that I flew through this book just to figure out what happens at the very end. And so while it did fall flat, it was a good time because, listen, this kept me away from a slump. This is the only thing that was holding me intact, and I'm happy I read it. Also happy I read the short story because there was good background on the story. But if you want to read it, definitely pick it up after you're done reading the main book. So once you finish Run on Red, only then pick up Red X, because Red X has huge spoilers for Run on Red. I gave Run on Red 3.5 stars and Red X was 3 stars for me. And now on to the next book. If I'm not wrong, I think I read Exes and O's, and here's the thing, now I'm starting to blank. This is where my memory is short-circuiting, failing me, goldfishing at the moment, which is not really great. This book was the next one in the series. I think it's called The Influencer or something like that, wherein it basically follows one influencer each. And so this one is the next one after Set on You. I read that a couple years ago and I never really was going to get to this, but then I saw in the summary that it follows the main girl from the first book's sister, and she in this book is like a book influencer. So that appealed to me. I was just like, hey, I need to pick this up immediately because maybe I will relate. And I will say it was a fun time. This book follows Tara. She, is kind of labeled the crazy ex-girlfriend by all of her boyfriends every time they dump her, and so she's just reeling from this like huge breakup that recently happened. And so she's not really looking for love at the moment, but she is a hopeless romantic at heart, and she would love to find her happily ever after, finally, finding the right guy who doesn't treat her the way her exes treated her like shit. Except one day while she's live streaming on her BookTube Book Talk channel, I'm sorry, I have no idea what really happened in that because it's escaping me at this point. The idea comes up that she wants to kind of try to reconnect with her exes because maybe they've become better men than they were in the past, and it's easier to find someone you already know and find like a second chance at romance with them rather than go out and explore something new. So she starts going through the list of kind of going through her list of 10 exes because she's trying to find like a date to this huge event she's got going to kind of get revenge on the guy who recently dumped her because he was horrible to her, and not necessarily revenge but to just show him she's better off than him, and she doesn't really need him in her life because he's a huge gaslighter, manipulator, whatever. So as she's going through that list, she's kind of being helped by her firefighter roommate Trevor. He is the best friend of the first guy in the first book. So Scott from the first book, Trevor is his best friend and he's a firefighter as well. And as this is going on, as Trevor is kind of trying to help Tara find love, he is essentially falling for her as well. So it's very similar to the premise of First Time Caller, wherein the guy is trying to help the woman find love, except he's falling for the woman as well, and they can't admit it because it's this whole thing between background stuff. And it was good, do not get me wrong, but I will say it was just the basic palate cleansery book, wherein it's the kind of book wherein you kind of read it in the middle of more mind-consuming reads. This was very light-hearted and this was very mindless in the sense that I had a fun time reading while I read it, but if you ask me to recollect specific events from it now, I could not tell you anything. I had fun with it, do not get me wrong, but this is also the sort of book that I will forget in the long run. And so while it was good to read about, it was fun reading about her influencer stuff, even though it wasn't very relatable. I had a good time watching the two of them fall in love. I, found Trevor the perfect book boyfriend. He truly was the essence of it, and it was a good read, but it's also the sort of thing I will forget because, again, it was a palate cleanser rom-com. Am I really going to remember so many rom-coms that I read on a daily basis, especially when the plot lines are very similar to each other? Probably not, but this was 3.5 stars and I had a good time reading. Day 5, another rom-com. What do you expect from me as a hopeless romantic? Picking up a bunch of rom-coms, but then again, realistically, if I am supposed to read one book a day, do you really think I'm going to be picking up an 800-page book fantasy like I did on like day 1 and regretting it? No, because I can't do it. I'm just human and I don't want to slump out and burn. This one is called Courtney Can't Decide, going on the same tangent of kind of getting through the series I'm in the middle of. This is the next one in a different series I started a couple years ago as well, and I will say this was probably the worst book I've read in this challenge so far. It follows Courtney, who struggles with indecision. So I personally thought I could relate to her because as a Gemini, I cannot make decisions to save my life. But thank God, and I said it in the short as well, my life is not the kind of train wreck hers is, because she needs to get her shit together. That's what she needs to do. Essentially, because she struggles with indecision, she kind of has issues kind of picking between what she wants to do. So she's working 2 jobs at the same time. She's, doing a bunch of things. If she can't decide what meal she wants, she's going to skip repeating. If she can't decide what movie she wants to watch, she's just gonna skip watching a movie. And so it's really struggling and messing with her life. And it gets worse when she kind of, starts falling for hotel guest Simon, because he's very charming and he's actually her hotel guest at her workplace number 1, and then at workplace number 2, because she, on her other job, kind of works as a dog sitter. She starts falling for her best friend Richard, or kind of falling for him because he confesses his feelings of love towards her. So she's kind of trying to figure out who she wants to end up with now, and here's where her indecision comes to stab her in the back, because she doesn't know who she wants to end up with. She doesn't know what's going on, and that's the whole premise. I will say the relationship she had with the guy she ends up choosing, it's very obvious from the get-go, because you start getting only his perspective, and so it wasn't much of a love triangle. It was very forced because you knew who she's ending up with. There was unnecessary drama just added to it, and then along with that, it was so physical. I hated every second, because genuinely, why? This woman planned an overnight trip with this man that she knew only 2 days just because he's good looking. My question is, where are your survival instincts? He could be some sort of psychopath coming out to kill you, but that's okay because he's good looking. And like, what's with that thinking? I'm telling you, there were so many times I got the ick with this book that in that one specific day that I spent reading it, I wanted to go and smash my head repeatedly into a wall instead of reading the book, and I'm so happy I'm done with it. Truly, you could not even pay me money to go back and reread this ever, because I hated every second. I feel like this specifically gave me so much cringe and made me remember why even the first book in the series, while I was reading it, there's certain lines wherein you literally just have to go back and reread them and wonder why they were written in the first place, because once you do so, you're kind of coming to terms with the fact that this is not real, this is not happening, this is not real life, because no one thinks that way. There's truly no way in hell something like that came up, and it did. So you're kind of struggling with that. You're grappling with the fact that you actually made the wrong decision to pick up the book, and I'm happy it's over. 2 stars. This almost put me in a slump again. I think I am in a slump actually thanks to this, so let's skip on, because good covers aren't helping me. I end up finding books like these, and then I'm regretting having picked it up in the first place. Day 5, at this point I was alternating between one Kindle book and one audiobook every day, and so I ended up listening to, on Kindle assistive read, All Shall Mourn. Best decision of my life, because when I tell you the previous book put me in such a slump, this one took me right back out of it. This is the last book in the None Shall Sleep trilogy. At this point, I'm begging, if the author ever sees this, please write more books in this world, because I need it like I need my lifeblood. This was perfect. This was everything. This whole series kind of follows these 2 teenagers with dark pasts that have kind of gone through first-hand experiences with serial killers, and they want to change the world for the better. So the FBI kind of recruits these 2, Emma and Travis, to kind of go and speak to real-life serial killers right now, teenagers essentially just like them, kind of figure out why they did it, their motives behind it, and connections between the serial killers they're speaking to and real-life active cases. Except when they are making these connections, it kind of gets dangerous for them, because it's like life-threatening in the sense that you're speaking to a serial killer and you're trying to solve a real-life case as a teenager that isn't officially recruited. So there's a lot going on in the background, but essentially it's like a life or death question, wherein if they do the wrong thing, if they take the wrong step, if they make the wrong decision, it's literally game over. And by game over, I mean stakes are so high they could lose their lives. This book is the 3rd book, and it essentially follows the main serial killer they've been speaking to in the first couple of books for advice on cases. So it follows Simon Gutmanson. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but this was actually perfect. This was the perfect conclusion to the series. This was my favorite book in the series, and I'm so happy I read it. I don't know why I put it off for so long. Maybe because I didn't want to get done with it, because this series is such a special place in my heart. But this book specifically, it's 4.5 stars, because I loved it so much. I'm not even joking. There were actual bits. It made me realize that this is one of the best thrillers I'll ever read, because it gave me everything a good thriller should give you. It had me on the edge of my seat. There were actual moments wherein I wanted to go throw up the contents of my stomach because it was disgusting. It was gross. Never would have seen that coming. I feel like even the ending, it was very open-ended, so you don't get much of like a conclusion, but when you get what you get, the bits of it, stop. I have so many questions. I need someone to come and answer them for me immediately, because I need more from this world. I'm not even joking. If the author writes more of it, I'll be first in line to go ahead and read it, because this was everything to me. When I tell you this was perfectly executed and the author gave it her all, she ate and left no crumbs with this, I mean it, because this like I said, it was everything to me. It was the best book we have read in this mini series so far, and I'm so happy I read it, so happy I picked it up. And do not be fooled by the cover, because even though the whole covers in the series are very pastel and cute, the inner contents aren't really. So even though it's very YA, definitely check, for triggers if you have any, because it does get gory at some bits. And finally, to top it off, we're going to end this video by falling overboard. This is another rom-com. What do you expect from me? This is the book I finished yesterday on day 7, so week 1 is officially over, and I had to finish it with a rom-com. What do you expect from me? Literally, me as a person, I'm always going to go back to them because they are my tried, tested and true books. I feel like anytime I finish like a series, I start a new genre or whatever, I need to break it up by reading one of these palate cleansery books, and it made sense to pick this up because I've been waiting for this one so long. It's written by the same author who wrote The Chemistry of Love, and that is one of my favorite books literally ever, so it made sense to pick this up immediately now that I had the chance. For context, it was sent to me by the publisher later last year, but I'm so mad at myself for not having picked it up sooner because it's out now. You can definitely read it if you want to, but it was such a fun time. Thank you, Mourn for my copy. For those lucky, this woman who's kind of trying to save up money to open her own bakery because that would complete her life dream. She's got like family background and past on it, and so she's kind of working as the chief stewardess on this luxury yacht. It's very high stakes because she could easily lose her job, but at the same time she's earning the kind of money to make up for it, and she just wants to finish like a couple years on the yacht so she can get the money to start that bakery of hers, fulfill her family dream. Except there's like this new deckhand that kind of joins the crew. He's called Hunter, and because of certain circumstances he's put to be sharing her cabin. So there's like lack of room or whatever, there's some sort of rule, and because they're sharing close quarters or whatever, because of the proximity they start becoming friends. They start socializing and bonding, and while that's going on, both of them start to fall for each other. It's very mutual, and one thing I liked about this book was the communication of it, because it felt very realistic and adult in the sense that it wasn't the sort of, oh, I like him but he probably doesn't like me kind of delusion we have going on in romance books. And so it was definitely a deviation from the normal standard, and it was good because I enjoyed it. Except they can't initiate anything because there's like a no romance rule on board. So because of that, she's trying to save her job by not doing anything with him because she wants that bakery, but at the same time maybe he could be the love of her life and she's holding back from that, and there's like that whole conflict going on. I feel like there was a bit of forced slow burn in here because they are very much bonding and there's stuff going on, but nothing really happens till the end. I don't really know how to explain it, but it wasn't my favorite. I feel like this author definitely did better with Chemistry of Love, and so I had a good time reading this, but I just didn't have the kind of good time I would have expected out of it because I feel like my expectations were sky high. Reality was not so much, and so I had a good time reading, do not get me wrong, but this definitely was more heavy on the com than the rom. I didn't enjoy the romance of it. I enjoyed the comedy more than anything. I feel like Hunter really stole the show when he came in with his witty puns. That's all I'm really gonna say, because if you were sitting across the room watching me read my book, I was giggling at my Kindle screen every 2 seconds. Every time this man made a pun, I was a goner. So I'm telling you, I had so much fun. I'm definitely adding him to my list of book boyfriends, but I will say the romance really didn't do it for me. So this was 3 stars, but it was a really good book. And if you want something with more comedic relief that isn't very realistic but it's fun regardless, this is it for you, because there's the whole premise with her job. There's different things going on in the background. It's a fun book and it was a good time reading anyway, and I sped through this. But yeah, that's it. We've reached the end of this video because those are all the books I managed to read in week 1. Now, I have some bad news to give you, which is the whole reason technically why I made this video. I wanted to discuss the books, sure, but I also wanted to speak about something else and in full length, so we'll be speaking about that now. Please don't hate on me. Hear me out before anything. The decision I've come to right now is that I think I'm going to stop 50 books in 50 days. Briefly, I will get back to it at some point, but for now, the problem is, in the 2 years that I've been doing YouTube, literally this morning I got a notification saying it's been 2 years, the day today that I'm recording and sitting down and speaking in this video, that I actually started YouTube. So 2 years ago, I started YouTube on this day, which is wild to me. And the problem is, in these 2 years, I've been doing this as a side fun project. It's like a hobby I do in the background and I have so much fun doing. The problem with this is the first time I've truly experienced burnout with these videos is in the past 1 week. Not because of the reading or the editing, I'm having so much fun, but the problem with that is I'm not really getting the human interaction I want with these videos. I'm not really getting the time I want to give it my all. These videos aren't the sort wherein I'm actually proud and happy of the ones I'm making, because I'm not getting to talk about the books the way I want to because of the whole timer on it. There's only so much you can do in a minute that leaves you feeling fulfilled, and currently I'm not. This is no hate to any short form creators, so much props and respect to them for doing it. It just isn't for me because I feel like I'm always going to be a long form girly till the end. I love sitting down with my long form videos, and so the fact that I can't make them anymore and I'm restricted for the next 50 days because I'm making all these short form videos is really hurting me, and I feel like it's definitely put a damper on my creative spirit, because I feel like I'm experiencing burnout in the sense that now I don't really want to stop making these videos. It's just that when I sit down to do these, I feel like I'm checking off like a task on my to-do list, and it's never supposed to feel that way. I'm supposed to actually have fun while doing it, and the fun is gone from it. So for now, I'm actually going to stop and revert back to long form, because I've never really felt this way before. I've never lost that creativity before, and I really want it back. It's starting to scare me. And so for now, only briefly, I'm going to go back to long form until we can figure out a more, I guess, productive system wherein I'm not losing the excitement in videos. I get to speak to you, but I still get to continue the challenge out. So do not get me wrong, I will continue this challenge. I never specifically said it's going to be 50 consecutive days. It will be 50 broken up days, but at some point I will come back to continue the series. Just for now, I need to take a break. For me personally, I want to live in the moment, do the other things I want to be doing in the background, but at the same time having a good balance with YouTube and making these videos and getting enough to express in these videos with my real life. So I am putting a break on the series, sure, but it's going to come back soon. If you've got ideas as to how I should bring it back in a sense that is still healthy for me, definitely let me know in the comments. I will be going through them. If you've also got book recs you want me to go through and when we continue the series, definitely leave them for me too. But then that's it. One last thing I forgot to mention is the fact that this had no balance whatsoever, because do not get me wrong, last year when I was posting for Bookmas, I did not burn out despite the fact that I was posting long form content, so 10 to 20 minutes of video, sometimes 40 every single day, recording them in real time, editing and posting for 12 days straight, and attending a wedding in the background, and that still didn't burn me out the way this has, because I feel like this is taking a toll on my real life too. I'm getting really poor sleep these days because of the fact that I'm going to bed late at night because I'm posting these videos and then waking up really early the next morning to start the next book for the video, so I have it done in time to kind of get back to editing the video and then posting it again. The vicious cycle continues, and so because of that, it's affecting my physical quality of life as well, which is leading to burnout. Clearly the causes are all interrelated, and so I need to break that interconnection. I will continue the series like I said. It's just probably going to switch over to long form because that's really what's helping me and keeping me on track creatively. I've never been someone for short form, and that definitely shows in my content, considering the fact that I'm not able to do it myself. Maybe one day I'll be able to keep up, maybe things will change in the future, but for now I definitely need that break desperately from posting short form. Even looking at those videos right now, genuinely I cannot do it. Looking at long form, that's really what I want to focus on, and so I'm gonna revert back to those. But now back to the video. Again, like I said, do not get mad at me. We will figure out a system. Maybe we could do reading 1 week of 7 books every month until I finish that 50 target goal or whatever. I don't know. Come up with your best ideas and hit me with them in the comments. But that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys had a fun time with me actually sitting down and talking out all my thoughts in one combined place for the last 7 days, because it's been a mess. It's been all over the place, and now truly I haven't been more happier than I am right now finishing this video off, because next I can actually go start recording something I want to in long form and reading books I actually want to, not worrying about the fact that I need to get it done in one singular day. So I'm gonna go do all of that. But regardless, if you had a fun time coming along with this whole rant video or whatever, sit down, but it was fun regardless. Like, comment, share, subscribe. YouTube things, you know how to do them, and I'll see you hopefully next week, because I am coming back with long form. I'm so excited more than ever to do my long form. It's just I don't really know when I'm continuing the short form, so we'll see about that. But regardless, stay tuned to the channel for more updates, and I'll see you next week very soon. Until then, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care and bye. Again, like I said, see you very soon. This is not me signing off from YouTube. That's probably never gonna happen, but I will see you with more long form next week. Bye.